now on the CTV News at 5. The case of a Lethbridge man charged with human trafficking is briefly back before the court. Plus, measles cases in Alberta are climbing again. And there's a new partnership between Excite Lethbridge and the Southern Alberta Art Gallery.
Telling your stories. CTV News Lethbridge with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Montana lawmakers are taking issue with Alberta over what they call unfair electricity trade practices. But the province maintains they are treating the state the same as any other neighbor. Quinn Keenan has more.
Trade between Canada and the United States continues to be a hot-button issue. But a trade dispute between Alberta and Montana directly is also causing tension. A Montana state senator says Alberta is unfairly blocking Montana power from consistently coming into the province.
Alberta is prioritizing their own resources in Alberta, and then external resources such as from Montana or other areas within Canada have a different standard. And this is whatever Canada does within Canada is fine, but what they're doing with Montana is against the U.S. trade agreement, and that's the issue.
Lethbridge East MLA and Minister for Affordability and Utilities Nathan Neudorf disputes these claims. In a statement, the minister said Alberta does not treat imports from Montana any differently than those from Canadian jurisdictions. Any restrictions on Alberta's interties with negotiating jurisdictions, including the Montana-Alberta tie line, are to minimize risk to grid reliability and ensure those on both sides of the border have access to the power they depend on. Trade is only part of the issue. Alberta's power grid isn't fully integrated with its neighboring provinces and Montana. That makes it difficult to share power between the jurisdictions. Montana lawmakers believe a more integrated system would be better for residents on both sides of the border.
That is the big goal, because in the end, energy doesn't care about borders, and we need to backfill each other's needs when possible and know that we can do that reliably.
Alberta's electrical grid is managed by the Alberta Electric System Operator. AESO is working towards greater integration between its power grid and others to increase power sharing and reliability. AESO said in an email to CTV News that we are continuing to take steps to increase the volumes which can be imported across Alberta's interties. Quinn Keenan, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Meanwhile, a delay in the bail hearing of a Lethbridge man charged with sexual assault and human trafficking offenses, who was released on bail and then scooped up half an hour after he initially got out. Sky Atoa was rearrested Tuesday for breaching the conditions of his release on human trafficking charges. Court ordered that he was supposed to go straight home. Instead, Lethbridge police say the 50-year-old went to a store to browse a perfume aisle. That's where officers found Atoa near a young female and arrested him. Atoa's bail hearing has now been set over until January the 20th. And we have an update for you from Lethbridge Police. 35-year-old Chad Pard, who was previously wanted on outstanding warrants, has been found and arrested. Police thank the public for their help. But city police are now asking for your help to find a missing woman. 24-year-old Ashanti Weasel Moccasin was last seen around 11 a.m. January 12th. Police say efforts to locate her have been unsuccessful. They're concerned for her well-being. Anyone with information on her whereabouts is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. All right, Danielle Savoni, still pretty windy out there today.
Yeah, very windy. In fact, wind warnings are in place for some communities, and the wind is out of a different direction today than what we've had over the past couple days. So no longer Chinook conditions. We have winds predominantly out of the north and northwest, and boy, is it gusty. 80 in Calgary, that was the max gust, 85 in Brooks, 91 in Medicine Hat, 61 in Lethbridge, and close to 70 in Pincher Creek. Where we're looking at the strongest wind gusts for the rest of today is really closer to the Saskatchewan border, Medicine Hat included in this. This is where we could get up to 100 kilometers per hour before it calms down later tonight. But yes, this is what it did to temperatures, just those lower single digits rather than the teens we had in many communities yesterday. Your full forecast just ahead, Jackie.
All right, thanks, Danielle. But the weather continues to be the hot topic across Alberta, with new heat records set in 39 communities Wednesday. 14 of those records were in the South region. Here's a look at the top 5. Claresholm was Alberta's hotspot yesterday at 19.5 degrees Celsius, smashing the previous record of 13.8 from 2008. Milk River hit 17.8, Lethbridge 17.5, which broke an 84-year-old record set back in 1942. Cardston got to 17.3. In Bow Island, the mercury climbed to 16.7 degrees. Now, other communities to break records were Brooks, Crow's Nest Pass, Medicine Hat, Pincher Creek, Staveley, and Waterton. Now, the above seasonal temperatures have it feeling more like spring than the middle of January. While many are enjoying the unusually warm weather, it is having an impact on animals and the ecosystem. Carson Marsouk explains.
The unusually warm weather has brought out more than just humans to enjoy the temperatures.
Organisms like insects being more directly related to temperature rather than photoperiod, that leads to us seeing them doing these things at weird times to us in any case.
Over the past few days, as temperatures have risen to the mid-teens, Everett Hanna says species like ladybugs and flies have emerged to take in the heat.
Everything, in nature is linked within a sort of range of timing. We refer to it as phenology. And as those cues of timing get sort of variable, get thrown out of sync, then all of the wheels start to fall off on all the intricate processes that are related to.
And while it's not uncommon to happen, Hannah says the change in climate can cause long-term damage.
They can be challenged by having adults coming out when it's not the right time, right? It's all of a sudden, it's going to cool down probably this weekend or next week, and that won't look great if you're an adult lady beetle that's come out. Obviously, they're not well equipped to survive the winter.
And the warm weather can reduce populations among species once winter returns. Hannah says that could be noticed in the spring.
So insects are an important food source for everything from birds to other insects, and also are really critical in terms of the ecological role they play for pollination.
He says other wildlife and species are also impacted by the change in climate. Species breeding to shedding winter coats early, the majority of animal cycles can be changed by the weather.
We are seeing those changes already, be it as a result of changes in moisture regimes, timing of warm up, the mismatching that I sort of started to describe there previously. Absolutely, we can see those declines already happening in some populations.
Carson Marsouk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Meanwhile, a blast of winter weather is walloping Ontario and parts of Quebec today. Up to 40 centimeters of snow is expected across the Greater Toronto area in the biggest storm of the season. The heavy snow is making for treacherous road conditions and closing schools and businesses. The City of Lethbridge says it saw a strong start of its environmental incentive program last year. Launched on Earth Day last year, the program offered rebates for low-flow toilets and rain barrels. The city says more than 360 rain barrel rebates were approved, more than 140 low-flow toilets. The incentive program provided residents up to $100 for new toilets or rain barrels. The city says more information about future program opportunities will be shared later in the year. Alberta's government plans to test the drinking water for lead and copper in all of its buildings. The testing would involve more than 200 buildings across the province, from the legislature to courthouses and museums. A statement from Infrastructure Minister Martin Long's office says the government wants to be proactive in dealing with its aging infrastructure. The province has asked for proposals from private contractors and expects to have the full report by the spring of next year. And Alberta will soon regulate online gambling, opening the door to private betting platforms while implementing new rules to protect players. The regulations will likely take hold in late spring. They'll allow new competition into the market, but impose rules on those companies. Among those rules, time and betting limits and system-wide self-exclusion to allow customers to ban themselves from online sites. Right now, Play Alberta is the province's only legal regulated iGaming site.
We've been talking to industry, and many of these companies have told us that they want to be legal, they want to play in a safer, more responsible place. And so they've indicated to us that, yeah, they're going to be here when we go live. But I want to be clear, this is not a revenue initiative for us. This is about making online gambling as safe and as responsible as we can for Albertans.
According to recent numbers from the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction, about 1 in 3 young adults in the country gamble online. The Community Foundation of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta have opened applications for its 2026 Spring Grants Program. The foundation is taking applications for the Community Priorities, Henry S. Varley Fund for Rural Life and Youth in Actions Grants programs. The Rural Life Fund will help support projects from community organizations in southern Alberta, while the Youth Action Grants will help empower youth to make a positive impact in the community. Over $520,000 will be distributed this spring. The foundation says this type of funding can help make communities across the region more vibrant. Applications can be found on the foundation's website. The Lethbridge Trade and Convention Centre will soon be home to an array of art displays. A new partnership between Excite Lethbridge and the Southern Alberta Art Gallery will see free, small-scale contemporary art exhibits throughout the convention centre. The partnership is part of the Art Gallery's 50th anniversary celebration this year. Art pieces are being moved out of the Art Gallery's downtown space to accommodate renovations. The temporary exhibits will open on March the 18th, or the 28th rather. It is time for our first break, and when we return, Danielle has your 5-day forecast. Plus, the province says the crisis in Alberta's emergency rooms should ease. We are back in 2 minutes.
Here's your Skywatch weather camera facing south, and it's actually pretty stable given the winds out there. But yes, it's gusty. Out of the wrong direction for any sort of Chinook setup here, and that's why temperatures were nowhere near as warm as yesterday. So yesterday, as Jackie mentioned, many broken records, many places in the teens, high teens even for some cases, and just 4 right now in Lethbridge, Brooks, Medicine Hat, 2 in Milk River, and 4 in Pincher Creek. It is windy though, but again, as we talked about, thanks to a system that's off towards Saskatchewan, is pulling that air down from the north, and it's very gusty, especially closer to the east. Now, Calgary did get an 80-kilometer-per-hour gust, and so did Red Deer. So along the QE2, it's certainly gusty. But this is where we have the best chance of getting 90-kilometer-per-hour gusts, closer to the Saskatchewan border, even 100 as we go through these next few hours. Medicine Hat did hit that 91 mark. Brooks 85, Lethbridge 61, Pincher Creek closer to 70. Overall, very windy out of the north and northwest, and this is why the wind warnings are in place along the Saskatchewan border. Medicine Hat included in this, and then it kind of filters out Hannah-Oy and Coronation involved in this as well. It will still be gusty in the overnight hours, but for most communities, just after midnight, it should start to die down to more reasonable wind, closer to 60 kilometers per hour. And then early tomorrow morning, it will start to calm down even further. So here's what we're looking at tomorrow. Tomorrow, the winds will be less intense, and they're going to start to shift and come out of the west. This isn't going to be a big, consistent Chinook setup, but we're looking at a wind change that's going to start warming our temperatures up over the coming days. So out of the west, 40-kilometer-per-hour gusts for Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, around 30 for Brooks and Pincher Creek. So tamer winds starting to switch over back to the west again. All right, we don't have a whole lot going on, and there's no real moisture in the forecast. I'm going to stop this on Saturday. So yeah, some cloudy periods here and there, and on Saturday night and through early Sunday morning, we could see a few flurries out there. This is nothing significant, and it's mainly Saturday night and through really early Sunday morning. That's the only moisture in the forecast, unfortunately, because we do need some. Fog patches tonight and through all of tomorrow morning for the East Kootenay area, getting up to a high of 2 degrees tomorrow afternoon. -8 overnight in Crowsnest Pass, 60-kilometer-per-hour gusts, and then again it tames down even further for tomorrow to 40. 3 degrees is our high in this area tomorrow with mainly sunny skies. Medicine Hat. Gusts 90 kilometers per hour, potentially even 100 throughout these next few hours. Then it quiets down to closer to 60 overnight and then down to 40 for tomorrow. We are looking at, because this is that cold wind out of the north, keep in mind with the wind chill tomorrow morning, it will feel more like -17. And then in the afternoon, a high of -1. So much cooler territory for tomorrow morning than what you've been used to over the past couple of days. Lethbridge, wind chill of -14 to kick off the day when off to work and school. But we should get above the freezing mark tomorrow afternoon to a high of 3 degrees thanks to that wind shift out of the west by the afternoon. 10 degrees, so we have more of a Chinook conditions for Saturday and Sunday, getting us into those double digits. Again, flurries possible late Saturday night. And then we dip down to that freezing mark or close to it to kick off next week.
The province says the crisis in Alberta's emergency rooms should ease now that cold and flu season is slowing down. That is, wait times in emergency rooms across the province stretch to hours and even days. Doctors are pleading for help after a man died in the waiting room in Edmonton's Grey Nuns Hospital after a lengthy wait. Over 300 doctors sent a letter urging the province to reintegrate the medical system to end the chaos. The province restructured Alberta Health Services into 4 silos as its signature effort to improve medical services. Acute Care Alberta added 336 beds to address increased demand, and the minister says more beds will be available as fewer people come to emergency rooms.
Fortunately, we are now beginning to see signs that the situation is easing from the peak seen in late December. Respiratory admissions are trending downward. Influenza activity has declined, and emergency inpatient numbers have improved across several high-demand sites.
The Alberta Medical Association is calling for changes to better manage hospital patient loads. Measles cases in Alberta have climbed again after weeks of declining case counts. 27 new cases have been reported across the province since last Friday, with 8 active cases in southern Alberta. Now, in total, we've seen more than 2,000 measles cases in Alberta since the outbreak began last March. Health experts say the vaccination count has not climbed high enough to achieve herd immunity.
What we're watching for and what we're a little bit worried about is we reintroduce measles into an under-vaccinated community, and we know there are a number of pockets in Alberta that are significantly under-vaccinated. We could see, once again, larger numbers of measles cases.
In a statement, the province says vaccinations rose 72% in the South Zone compared to last year. They say 2 doses of the MMR vaccine is the most effective way to prevent getting measles. Still ahead on the CTV News at 5. The Lethbridge Hurricanes were looking to snap a 4-game losing skid. We have got highlights of that game next. Hurricanes were in action last night against the Red Deer Rebels. The Canes were looking to snap a 4-game losing streak. Early in the second, Lethbridge's Easton Deneau would finally open up the scoring to give the home team a 1-0 lead, but only a few minutes later, Red Deer's Matej Mikes tips one past Cohen Cleaver to tie things up. A couple of late second period goals from Nate Yellowage and Paul Anderson would give Red Deer a 3-1 lead after 40. Midway through the third now, Titan Lafreniere finds the back of the net to make it a 1-goal game. Red Deer, though, would again respond. Only a minute later with Cameron Kuzma making it 4-2. The Canes would add 1 late, but they would lose 4-3 as their losing skid hits 5 games. As the Winter Olympics draw near, athletes from across Canada are preparing to showcase their skills. One Saskatchewan-born hockey star is hoping to bring her 3rd medal home to Saskatoon. Hallie Mandrick reports.
Nearly 4 years ago, Emily Clark brought an Olympic gold medal home to Saskatoon, and now she's planning to do it again.
Everyone knows hockey in Canada. You're going for gold every time. Every year, maybe the motivator is slightly different, and you just use whatever you need to be at your best. But obviously winning, competing, representing our country and our team, there's no shortage of motivation.
The Saskatoon-born hockey superstar is gearing up to represent Canada at the Olympics for a 3rd time in Milano Cortina. Clark has been playing hockey since she was 3, and there's been a lot of growth in the world of women's hockey since then.
Lots of us were motivated by wanting to play on Team Canada, and we only got to see that every 4 years. So now, for young girls and boys to get to see women in sport so often, so accessible, so freely, I think that makes a massive difference.
Emily Clark, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
With more than 800 girls playing hockey in the Saskatoon Comets Female Hockey League, those involved say the Saskatchewan representation Clark brings to an international stage can make a big difference for aspiring hockey players.
As these new leagues get more popular and we start to see more products from our local communities make these leagues, I think it'll just fuel the fire that girls have to achieve something great.
Clark says that support from her hometown goes a long way.
I'm so proud to be from Saskatoon, and I feel the love. I see the messages. I'm bad at replying to my own family, so please don't take it personal if you send me a message and I don't get back to you. But no, just that it's felt and it's appreciated and never taken for granted.
Clark and the rest of Team Canada will be heading overseas soon with opening ceremonies for the Milano Cortina Olympic Winter Games scheduled to take place on February 6th. Hallie Mandrick, CTV News, Saskatoon.
26 people, including more than a dozen U.S. college players, have been charged for rigging basketball games in an NCAA betting scheme.
This is a prosecution of the criminal corruption of collegiate athletics. And as we allege in the indictment, this was a scheme that spanned 3 years and eventually enveloped 17 NCAA Division I men's programs.
According to prosecutors, 39 players on 17 different teams were paid between $10,000 and $30,000 to underperform, while fixers placed big bets against their teams. This ski and snowboarding course is not for the faint of heart. 4 athletes have conquered the 350-meter long course in Italy's Julian Alps. It's built on a ridge just a few meters wide. It also includes a 6-meter long rail built between 2 boulders, bridging a 450-degree slope, or 45-degree slope. There's also a no-fall zone, along with edges 110 meters high. The skiers say they aren't scared of heights, but still said they never looked down. Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, we talk about a rise in grandma hobbies, younger generations, and older hobbies. There's good news about a new generation going old school. Young people are putting down their devices and picking up knitting needles, replacing their scrolling with stitching. Here's NBC's Emily Aikida.
Pet feral sweater. Swiping through social media, you'll find some of the newest trends this year are age-old hobbies.
I really want to get into knitting.
Crafting, puzzles, and baking, delighting a whole new generation.
I've recently discovered Mahjong.
The so-called grandma hobbies or analog activities are drawing young people away from doom scrolling.
I packed my needlepoint bag to take over to my grandparents.
Google searches for needlepoint reaching new highs in recent weeks.
My current work in progress.
While WIP, or Work in Progress Wednesday, now has more than 80,000 videos of crafters showing off their projects on TikTok.
Heard you want to start needlepointing, you just don't know where to begin.
It's part of 28-year-old Brooke Michio's New Year's resolution.
I realized all of the activities that I were doing were either on a computer, on the phone, like some sort of screen involved. And this is something that is completely separate from that.
Dude, you know what actually just rips in your 30s, dude, is like birds, dude.
Bird watching also taking flight among young people.
Why do you think there's this embrace of analog activities?
I think we're just going back to the basics. It feels like it's something that kind of unites us across multi-generations.
Stitching new bonds with timeless hobbies. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Thank you for sharing this time with us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.